Hey, I'm Sam from Barn2, and here is a quick two-part tutorial about some handy features in our Post Table Pro plugin. First, I want to show you how to add custom links, buttons, and icons into your tables. Now you can see here that I have created 3 examples on this page, and I'll show you how to set up each one of them in the first part of the tutorial. Then in the second part of this video, I'll show you how to edit the sorting options to list WordPress posts on a page in many different ways, such as alphabetically or by category, tag, and so on and so forth. Now, in case you're not yet familiar, this video is all about Post Table Pro, plugin for listing any WordPress content in a table layout. You can even test drive a live demo of this plugin by using the first link in the description below. And I'm going to skip over all of the installation and setup for this plugin. If you need a tutorial for that, you can watch this video first. So the very first step is obviously to install this plugin on your website, or if you're just following along with the tutorial, you can try it in a temporary demo, but you will lose all of that work on that temporary site as it will expire. So you're better off to get the plugin onto a test site like I've done. So once you have the plugin, then first I want you to go to the settings page for the entire plugin. From here, just scroll all the way to the bottom of the general settings and enable this option here to show shortcodes, HTML, and other formatting in the table, and then click on Save Changes. We'll make sure to revisit this page later on for some more advanced settings. Now over here on the left, I'm going to click on Tables, and you can see I've already created some tables in advance, like the example that I showed you. But if you need to add a new table, you can click on this Add New button and run through the entire table builder very quickly. We can add something like posts, pages, or any kind of custom post type that we want, and click on Next. We can choose if it's going to be all posts or select some specific posts. We can add columns, and I'll go through some more details about this later. But if we want to add an image column, and we can even link from that image column to the post page, for example, or we can just preview the image, click on Done, and I can even drag and drop these into any position. So this image column will appear on the left, followed by content, title, and summary. Click on Next, and we have some search and sorting options. We can add filters like categories and tags, for example, and we can even update some performance options for websites with lots and lots of content. But I'm going to exit this instead and just use the one that I've already created. If you look here on the right, you can copy the shortcode for this post table, and then you can edit any page that you are working on your site, or create a new one, add a shortcode block, or add the shortcode into any content section, click on Save, and then we can already preview our new table. Now, if you want to add links, buttons, and icons into this table, there are several ways that you can achieve each of these, and I'll walk you through some of the more common ways to do that now. So first of all, let's talk about how to add a text link. So you can make just about any item in the table a clickable link, including the images, and that just depends on the specific settings for this column. So in order to link to the category page for WordPress tips, you can click on that and you can find all of the posts within the WordPress tips. We could even create a separate post table for this page so it's a little bit more organized. So to achieve this clickable link functionality, we need to go into the post tables editor here, click on Edit on our current table, and then scroll down to this column section. Now for every column, you can click on this Edit Column option, and then here we can add a link and enable this function here. And then we can either link to the post page, or in the case of an image, we can display the image in the lightbox. Click on Done, and then go down through each of them, and you can enable a link if you want to. For categories, we have the option to create a link to a filter, so we can filter the table by categories, or we can just link to the archive page. Of course, if you want to just add any text into a custom field or a content section, you just have to make sure to include that custom field or content section in the table, and make sure that that link is visible at the top or the front of the text. But this is probably a little bit less ideal of a solution. However, it will work because links that you add into content sections are going to be clickable by default. Now let's talk about how to add a button. And Post Table Pro comes with a button column itself. So you can see in my example table here that I have this Read More column, and there's a button to view, and this is a clickable button. It'll take me to the post, just like this link here as well. To add that column, we need to go back to our table. So briefly, I'm just going to remove this column and just show you how to add it. So I'll scroll down and find button, click on add, and you can see by default it says details. I like read more, and I'll click on done. And when I edit the advanced settings, I can choose to show that column heading, and there are some responsive different visibility options here as well. Now, if we scroll down, we're not quite done here. We can change the button text with this option here. So I like view, but you might also like, say, read more. A little bit redundant because that's also the column heading, but I'll just show you how it updates on the table. If we click on refresh, now the read more column has a button which says read more, and I've moved it to the end of the table instead of having it in the middle. But hold on, there is at least one other way to add buttons into your table. I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but if your theme supports a custom button, then you can actually add it in any content or custom post field that's also included in the table. For example, in the storefront theme, you can use the class equals button in the text editor to add a button to any page. In block themes, there should be an option to add a button as well using a specific block. Now, of course, that will have to be included in the table somehow. So that depends on whether you're using custom fields or summary or some other way to add that button in. But basically, to summarize, you have that option. Now, let's wrap up this first part of the tutorial by showing you how to add icons, such as social media icons. Your theme may support icons by default, but I actually recommend using a custom field to add them into your table, because then you can create a unique column with all of the icons that you want to include. So let's back up a minute and have a look at our custom post types. So I'm using a plugin called Easy Post Types and Fields. And if I click on other post types, go to my main posts, you can see I've added social icons as a custom field, and I added it as a visual editor. Any custom field plugin is capable of doing this, so you'll just have to go through the steps depending on which custom field plugin you have, whether it's ACF or another one. Then on the page where you're editing your posts, you can add the icon using the visual editor here. Now, I do actually have one more plugin enabled, which is called Font Awesome. This is a free plugin, and I'm able to use the editor to add any social icons that I want to. So by writing in the shortcode for the Twitter icon, for example, and adding a link by highlighting the text and using the insert or add link option, I can click on save, and this post, this particular blog post, will now have an additional custom field, which includes an icon, and you can see it appearing in the table here. So how did I get this custom field into the table? Well, it's very simple. We go back into the table settings, and you can see here, I'll just remove this temporarily. And because it's a custom field on my website, the plugin recognizes it, and I can just add it immediately like this. So I'll click on done, and I'll move it back to where it was and save my changes. So as with all of these things I've shown you, there are various other ways to achieve the same or similar results. You just have to get a little bit creative and see what you can manage, because Post Table Pro is a very flexible plugin. And speaking of flexible, Post Table Pro also comes with a lot of amazing sorting options. So you can change the way that your post tables are sorted. For example, you could sort them alphabetically, by categories, tags, or many other ways. So let's take a look at some of those settings now. First of all, as I showed you before, you can simply drag and drop to reorder any of the columns in the table. Then you'll notice on each of the columns in the editing screen, under advanced settings, you can also find the responsive visibility and the responsive priority. If you have too many columns to fit within the page width of the device that the user is on, then the columns will kind of be hidden with a little plus icon, so users can see all of the columns, but they all still fit on the screen. So by using these different responsive settings, you can prioritize certain columns over other ones, so that people will always be able to see the image or the title rather than seeing some random information that's not very relevant. Another important sorting option you have is filters. So by adding a filter for categories and tags, as well as other custom taxonomies, you can enable your users to sort the table in a way that helps them to find what they're looking for. And very importantly, you have a sort by option here. So by default, it's set to sort by the title of the post, but you can also sort by any of these other options here, including, as you can see, the custom field that I added. You can then change the sort direction to be reverse alphabetical or numerical order. And finally, you can enable a search box, which allows users to type in the name of the thing they're looking for. I think it's also worth mentioning that these settings are available on a global level, so you can change your settings for your entire site and all of your tables. However, if you change the settings within a certain table, then those will take priority. By editing the global settings, you can change the default values for all of your tables. And you can see that in the global settings, there are just a few other items that you might be interested in, such as the caching option or some of the pagination options. And of course, you can always click the link below to read our knowledge base and find out more ways that you can customize Post Table Pro. Now, you might be interested in watching this video next to learn how to set up tables from scratch, and click this link to try a live admin demo of the plugin for yourself. And of course, thanks for watching.